In this video, we attempt to integrate the main research concerned with talent identification and development in soccer. Research approaches in anthropometry, physiology, psychology and sociology are considered and, where possible, integrated. Although some progress has been made in identifying correlates of playing success, it appears that no unique characteristics can be isolated with confidence. Both biological and behavioral scientists have indicated a strong genetic component in performance of sports such as soccer. Nevertheless, the influence of systematic training and development programs should not be underestimated. We conclude that the sport and exercise sciences have an important support role in the processes of identifying, monitoring and nurturing talented soccer players towards realizing their potential. In sport, as in other domains such as science, music and the arts, the attainment of excellence is the primary goal of many individuals. Spectators marvel at expert performance, coaches endeavor to nurture their protégés towards new heights of achievement and athletes aspire to reach "greatness." As a consequence, the study of expertise in sport, together with the identification and development of future elite performers, is a respected area within the sport sciences. Its expansion is particularly evident in soccer, where there has been renewed interest in talent identification and development. The Bosman ruling by the European Court of Human Rights in 1995, which precludes professional soccer clubs from withholding a player's registration at the completion of his contract, has increased the flow of players across national borders and caused inflationary pressure on wages and transfer fees. It is necessary, therefore, for clubs to retain the services of their most talented players on a long-term basis and to balance the inflow and outflow of players so that the stability and performance of the team is not adversely affected. To remain competitive, clubs now endeavor to invest significant amounts of money in attempting to identify and nurture potentially elite players. Identifying soccer potential at an early age ensures that players receive specialized coaching and training to accelerate the talent development process. The reliable identification of future elite players permits clubs to focus their expenditure on developing a smaller number of players, representing a more effective management of their resources. In the attempt to produce young talented players, sports scientists have a role to play in working together with coaches, scouts and administrators to underline key elements of the talent identification and development process. In this overview, we consider the role of sports science in helping to identify soccer talent. First, key terms are defined and important stages within the talent identification process highlighted. Next, we present a brief summary of contemporary research concerned with identifying potential predictors of talent in soccer. Findings from physical, physiological, psychological and sociological research are presented to form a multidisciplinary perspective. Finally, the implications of this work for talent identification and development are addressed. We attempt to incorporate the main research directions from the other contributions to this special issue of the Journal of Sports Sciences and place them in overall context. The range of material covered is concerned with talent identification, talent development and expertise in soccer and includes references relating to growth, maturation, training and genetics. The research reviewed relates entirely to male players and consequently, no inferences are made for female participants in soccer. To begin, definitions of key terms are provided. Talent may not be evident at an early age, but there will be some indicators that enable trained people to identify its presence. These early indicators of talent may provide a basis for predicting those individuals who are more or less likely to succeed at some later stage. Very few individuals are talented in any single domain. If all children were talented, there would be no way to discriminate or explain differential success. Finally, talent is specific to that particular domain. These properties highlight the complex nature of talent and illustrate why there is no consensus of opinion regarding the theory and practice of talent identification in sport. At present, professional soccer clubs rely on the subjective assessment of scouts or coaches, supported by a "shopping list" of key criteria. These criteria include acronyms such as TABS. So technique, attitude, balance, speed. SUPS.SO speed, understanding, personality, skill and tips. So talent, intelligence, personality, speed. Although the ability of coaches and scouts to interpret such criteria and identify particular aptitudes for success should not be underestimated, appending sports science contributions to these judgments can contribute a degree of objectivity to the process. At the very least, objective data collected by sports scientists can help confirm practitioners' initial intuition with regard to players' strengths and weaknesses. From a scientific perspective, the pursuit of excellence can be broken down into 4 key stages. These can be distinguished as "detection", "selection", "identification", and "development". Talent detection refers to the discovery of potential performers who are currently not involved in the sport in question. Because of the popularity of soccer and the large number of children who participate, the detection of players is not a major problem when compared with minority sports. Talent identification refers to the process of recognizing current participants with the potential to become elite players. It entails predicting performance over various periods of time by measuring physical, physiological, psychological, and sociological attributes as well as technical abilities, either alone or in combination. An attempt is made to match a variety of performance characteristics, which may be innate or amenable to learning or training, to the requirements of the game. A key question is whether the individual has the potential to benefit from a systematic program of support and training. Talent identification has been viewed as part of talent development, in which identification may occur at various stages within the process. Talent development implies that players are provided with a suitable learning environment so that they have the opportunity to realize their potential. The area of talent development has received considerable interest of late, leading several researchers to suggest that there has been a shift in emphasis from talent detection and identification to talent guidance and development. Finally, talent selection involves the ongoing process of identifying players at various stages who demonstrate prerequisite levels of performance for inclusion in a given squad or team. Selection involves choosing the most appropriate individual or group of individuals to carry out the task within a specific context. It is particularly pertinent in soccer, since only 11 players can be selected to play at any one time. For many years, scientists have tried to identify key predictors of talent in various sports. In this type of research, particularly evident in Australia and the former Eastern Bloc countries, there are attempts to identify characteristics that differentiate skilled from less skilled performers and to determine the role of heredity and environment in the development of expertise. This research has embraced various sports science disciplines. Research from each of these disciplines is reviewed in turn. It is difficult to draw firm conclusions in terms of the practical utility of a systematic or scientific approach to talent identification, as opposed to relying purely on subjective assessment of performance as evidence of giftedness. Research concerned with the physical and physiological predictors of talent has highlighted a number of potentially important measures such as somatotype, aerobic capacity, and anaerobic power. Nevertheless, there is no clear consensus regarding the relative importance of these measures in predicting talent in soccer. Fitness and anthropometric profiling can generate a useful database against which talented players may be compared to identify strengths and weaknesses. These measures can also be helpful to scouts and coaches in confirming their initial perceptions of a player's strengths and weaknesses. While such profiling may be used for the purposes of "selecting in", the use of such measures for "selecting out" is questionable and possibly unethical. The multifaceted and individualistic nature of expertise ensures that shortcomings can often be remedied through appropriate interventions diet, and that weaknesses in certain areas can often be compensated by strengths in others. At the very least, the systematic collection of such measures, particularly from childhood through adolescence, would ensure that coaches and others are better informed about how physical and physiological factors affect the development of young soccer players. Longitudinal research of this nature would also help determine the predictive utility of these tests with young players. Psychological profiling for the purpose of talent identification or selection cannot be scientifically endorsed. Although the importance of factors such as self-confidence, concentration, and motivation has been highlighted, no psychological tests presently achieve adequate discrimination. It would be more appropriate for professional clubs to devote resources towards psychological support and improving players' mental skills. Contrary to popular opinion, mental skills such as motivation, anxiety control, and self-confidence can be refined through psychological intervention techniques delivered by accredited sports psychologists. The monitoring and longitudinal profiling of psychological characteristics over time may be helpful in determining the extent to which these variables remain stable over the course of adolescence. Soccer-specific tests of anticipation, decision-making, and creative intelligence may offer more predictive utility for talent identification purposes. At elite standard, these cognitive factors may be more important than physical or physiological attributes once players reach an hypothesized threshold in the latter. Since performance on these perceptual tests is at least partly dependent on playing experience, by definition such measures may not be used for talent detection purposes. However, preliminary results suggest that players may be differentiated on the basis of such skills after comparatively brief periods of exposure, implicating the potential use of such tests for talent identification purposes. Sociologists have questioned the validity of relying solely on physical, physiological, or psychological measures to predict potential in sport. In their view, having supportive parents, a stimulating and permissive coach, and the dedication and commitment to spend hours and hours practicing and refining skills are the real determinants of excellence. According to this approach, there are no early predictors of adult performance. Rather, players should be provided with access to appropriate facilities and opportunities for meaningful practice. Investment in high-quality coaches and coach education systems is crucial. Technical support in terms of sports science and sports medicine is essential to ensure that players have the opportunity to fulfill their potential. Clubs have a responsibility to invest in youth, providing today's children with the opportunity to be nurtured into tomorrow's "superstars." To this end, a more equitable balance between players' current salaries and investment in talent identification and development is paramount. Also, more opportunities must be provided for young players, at the possible expense of migrant players, by perhaps restricting the number of overseas players at clubs. Although avenues for future research have been highlighted in this video, some specific suggestions are outlined. First, a promising direction would be to adopt a multidisciplinary approach to identifying talent. The complexity of talent and the methodological problems associated with its identification preclude the use of a monodisciplinary approach. Future research should use a comprehensive battery of physical, physiological, psychological, and sociological measures. This more structured and holistic approach would account for a greater proportion of the variance between talented and less talented players, promoting greater accuracy and improved understanding of the talent identification process. A comprehensive database is required to develop a criterion-based model or "talent profile" that may help predict future performance. Moreover, different factors may predict performance at various ages, and consequently, any such model would need to be age-specific. In most previous research, a cross-sectional rather than longitudinal approach has been adopted. Improved understanding may arise from monitoring players over a protracted period of time to determine the key changes that occur as a result of development and practice and how these factors contribute to expert performance. Clubs should also allow sports scientists greater access to those involved in the talent identification process. Scientists need to determine the nature of the subjective and implicit criteria that coaches and scouts use to identify talented players. Although most coaches and scouts feel that they can "see a good player," outlining the criteria upon which such decisions are made is more problematic. Structured interviews with practitioners would enable scientists to quantify and document such criteria, thereby ensuring greater coherence between the theory and practice of talent identification. It is by no means clear that conclusions about young talented male players can be generalized to females. It is likely that the growth in female participation in soccer will continue well into the future. It is important, therefore, that research into talent identification and development is extended to address issues related to young female soccer players. Finally, there are important ethical and educational issues that transcend all aspects of the talent identification and development process. Such concerns are commonly neglected in the literature on talent identification. A child's overall development and well-being should be of primary concern to those involved in the process of talent development and identification. The pursuit of excellence should not occur at the expense of the child's physical and emotional health, growth, and development. Appropriate familial, educational, and sociocultural environments are keystones in a balanced approach to child development, especially where the development of elite soccer players is concerned. Thank you for watching and listening.